All right, here we are in Stumpy's Corner. It's Friday, a championship week in college football. And we're in the Big East clubhouse here, back off the road. I'm giving you my Friday and Saturday picks. And I was sitting around today after early morning work and thought I'd come in here and talk about some college football topics that I've listened to over the last several weeks and this fall. Seems like we got so many people talking about it, we don't seem to get any answers, and it's just shocking to me, all the smart people supposedly we have out there, that we can't come up with a reasonable solution for everybody that makes some sort of sense. And so I wanted to come on as a fan, not a prognosticator, not an expert. I have coached in the youth sports, like I've explained before. Certainly not at the levels these folks coach at. I've been a 4-year letterman at the University of Maryland in golf. I've been recruited. I thought about transferring. And so I do have some experience in some of these fields, not on the level of what college football is, but as a student athlete, and now as a big fan of college sports in general, not just football. So I wanted to come on here and just chat and see where it goes. And again, it's just baffles me that it doesn't seem like it should be this hard. I guess everybody wants talking points and clicks and whatnot, and I get all that. But it's just unbelievable that we can't come to some consensus on all this as grown people or young people or athletes or former athletes, and we can't come up with a solution. We'd rather sit here and argue about it the whole time and sit around and see who gets the pat on the shoulder and get credit for it. So I'm not looking for any credit. I'm not looking for anything other than giving my thoughts on it as a fan. So I have several topics written down here on my legal pad. I don't have a computer. I don't have data. I don't have any of that stuff. I know everybody has more data than I do, and that's okay. I don't look at that. I got 2 eyes and 2 ears, and I see and I listen, and so that's what I'm going by in my experience in watching college football and college sports in general. So my first thought here is I think something needs to be talked about with more regularity and more seriousness. Is let's look at the academic schedule of what we have at universities. A lot of them vary when school starts and doesn't start. A lot of them, on a semester basis, on a quarterly basis. I think probably the simplest thing you can do to make everything work properly is look at the academic schedule and see how you can change that in order to funnel down, if you will, of all the other times and dates of everything when things fall to help out with the situation. I know in academia, they don't tend to want to change too many things around, but I think in this case that I think there's something seriously needs to be looked at is the academic schedule of when school starts, when your school breaks, and when your school year ends, and come up with a reasonable solution to where you can work all these other things around that will help the situation. And there needs to be a big conversation about that. So, in normal cases, the summer is anywhere from about 2 months long. And I know this as a former athlete and former student in college, and I look forward to the summers. and looking forward to getting out of college and have a couple of summers off. Most of the time I either worked at a job or I played golf during the summer and played in many tournaments during the summer over that 2 or 2.5 month period. So I never really had a vacation during that time because of work and trying to play competitively so I could keep my skills up during that time being off away from school. And I found that 2 months was very reasonable. Could have been probably less. And so I believe that the school year needs to start early, make it more consistent throughout the country. And then I think you could come back in on the back end of it and end school a little earlier. So I'm not sure you'll lose that much summertime if you do that. I don't see any reason why you couldn't start the school year sometime earlier in August to help with the scheduling throughout the fall of college football. So that would be the first thing I would look at is the academic. What requirement academically do you need to do to help work out some of these other things that are going on that will help? And I think that's where you start. I'm not sure we're getting into that as much. It seems like that's kind of on the back burner. I hear some people talking about it now as opposed to before, but I think the academic thing needs to be addressed seriously. And I don't think there will be any repercussions from it, and it may help academically. Who knows? We don't know that, but it's not going to hurt. I don't think you're going to lose the free time off for the students as much as people think in the summer, because I think most students will be glad to get back to college as soon as possible. And of course, they look forward to getting through with their school year as quick as possible. But I do think they'll are ready to come back. I was, I'd done everything I needed to do in the summer over about a 60-day period, and I was ready to go back to school. So I think the academic part of it needs to be talked about a whole lot more. So if we do change the academic scheduling, if you will, and make it more consistent across the board with universities, when you start and when you end, it will help the scheduling for the season. So you'll be able to schedule games a little early, start a little bit earlier. And you might even go into starting practice earlier in the summer versus what it is now. So everything could be backed up at the start of the year, a week, 10 days, or whatever it is, and then that would back up some practice time earlier in the summer. Athletes, look, they know what it is. They need to get back, tune their skills, so they'll be willing to come back early. I believe that. So your schedule is moved up. Then, so the end of the schedule will end earlier in that calendar year, that same calendar year before the first of the year. And so that gives you some window there before the next semester starts for the spring, early spring. So I think looking at that early part of the, late part of the summer and early spring, move that start date of academically, games, practice earlier, then you can come back in and look more at the playoff system, which I would go to a 24 team playoff, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. So I think the academic schedule is the key thing here. Then you can get your schedule for the season, for the fall season, football season, related to that. And then if those who want conference championship games we'll have a little bit extra time to put those games in toward the end of the season. And then you'll have plenty of time to get a 2014 playoff system in. So, those three things: academic, your season schedule, and your conference championship schedule. I think if you look at it smartly enough, you can fit all that in and have a 24-team playoff really easy. And then you can, on the back end of that, put your National Signing Day and your transfer portal after the season's over with. So I think it can be done. There's a whole lot smarter people than me out there, and I think it can be done. I put it down on paper, and I don't think you would have any argument from a student athlete, or really I think any student in college, by starting a week or 10 days earlier to accommodate a more favorable system in the fall for college football that will crown the champion at the end of the season. And you will satisfy those who want to transfer out of the school, and then the signing day, and then have plenty of time to get ready for the spring semester of athletes wanting to go into an early spring, who are signed or in the transfer portal to get ready for spring practice. I don't think it's that difficult, folks. It's a matter of date and time more than it is anything else. So we want to talk about transfer portal, signing day, when that date is and whatnot, and all these other dates. I think the key date, again, is the academic schedule. So I would encourage everybody to look at that and see what you can come up with to encourage a 24-team playoff. And that is my wish. So why is that my wish? You know, it's amazing to me. Some of the best times toward the end of the season or the winter time, when bowl games come around, or in case the SCS playoffs, you know, they have a 24-team playoff, and they've been doing that for years, and they're part of the NCAA structure. And those games are so much fun that I thoroughly enjoy watching those games, so much more than I do the bowl games now. So it's already in place. I don't understand why we can't get it in place for the big boys. It's just incomprehensible for me to figure out. And I'm certainly not the smartest tool in the box, but it just makes no sense to me, again, why it's already in place and they can't figure it out. They're playing during the school year. They're doing everything already. So I know why it's the case, but it's just unbelievable that they can't figure it out at this point. So I would like a 24-team playoff. I think it can be done. Again, I think we're looking at the wrong things to try to fix this. I think it's the academic schedule. So let's move on to another topic. Let's talk about the CFP rankings announcements. You know, I get it. It's another way on a Tuesday night to get views and have people watch and get ratings and whatnot. I get all that. But, you know, it's not important to me as a fan. What's important to me as a fan is getting it right at the end of the year. We don't have enough data. I mean, if you're into data, we don't have enough data yet when it starts. I think it starts, November 1st or something like that, or end of October, whatever. There are too many crucial games that are left that, you know, we can't get a measurement on it yet. So let's don't have the show until 2 weeks left into the season. at least that, because we don't know what's going to happen in those 2 weeks, much less even the last week. So just way too many games left to prognosticate, and these rankings come out and it just turns everything upside down. People worry about moving up 1, down 1, up 2, down 5, down 8, down 12, up 12. Who cares in November 1? Who cares? So let's get it. Let's don't worry about the ratings. Let's put everything together and come out with a couple of shows and put it together. And I think your ratings will go even higher if you wait and not do it now. People are kind of tired of it, tired of listening to it. So I know I am as a fan. So I don't watch it. I see them the next day. I don't need to watch it on Tuesday night. So anyway, that's my spill on the ranking show. And there's no reason. People want to rank teams during the year. Fine. I get all that, but the rankings mean absolutely nothing to me until the very close to the very end. And that's when you have enough information and data where you can make a more realistic decision on how you rank the teams. So, went over the 2014 playoff, what I think should happen. Bowl games. Let's talk about bowl games. There are currently, not including the CFP, there are currently 35, I believe around 35 bowl games. And you know, I have watched bowl games religiously for, I'm telling you, for at least 30 years, at least that long. And I remember the day when bowl games were really important, and you could go to a bowl game. You even had a hard time getting a ticket for a bowl game because it was something that was, you know, pretty cool to go to. And especially as a kid, now you look into the stands, there's nobody in these, and I would say 80% of these bowl games are, I mean, you can buy a ticket anywhere, anytime, for any amount, whatever, and go to a bowl game. We used to go to which is now the Tax Slayer Bowl, and down at the Gator Bowl. I remember going to that game when Michigan State played Georgia back in the day, and they were not the two top teams at that time. You couldn't even get a ticket for that game. Now, that stadium is not even half full. I'm probably overstating that, but it's not even half full. So you got 35 bowl games. So they got sponsors for all of them. And I don't know why you don't go in and say, okay, I think you would need, like, if you had a 2014 playoff, you're going to need about 23 bowl games for those the CFP playoffs. If you just said, okay, these are the bowl games, you select the bowl games that you want to represent in the college football playoffs, and you tag those first round games, second round games, whatever, ever how the brackets go. And you say, all right, this is the Gator Bowl, this is the Snoop Dogg Bowl, or whatever the name is, whoever the sponsor is. Say, okay, these are the bowl games. I would almost guarantee you that you would make more money at these 23 bowl games than you are in these 35 right now. I will guarantee you that. I think the stadiums would be packed if they were part of the playoffs. You'll see it go back to the old days where bowl games really meant something. And you know, when it's all said and done, money talks, and all this conversation is, you would see more money pouring into these bowl games because people are going to want to go see them and support their team because they're part of the playoff. Whereas now, look, folks, there's only about half a dozen bowl games that really mean anything anyway. So you're talking about going from, say, half of the bowl games mean anything to 23 of them really meaning something. And that would leave you about 12 bowl games left over if you wanted to fit the teams in that deserve to go to a bowl game. And so you're trying to accommodate both sides of that, and I just don't understand why that hasn't been done, especially seeing the decrease in participation from the fans in majority of these bowl games. If it's really about money, y'all should have seen that a long time ago. I'm no accountant, I'm no business administrator, but I can see through my eyes and hear it, the stands aren't full. So I would incorporate the bowl games into the college playoff system to increase the bowl participation from the fans, give it some excitement, and that would leave you about 12 more bowl games left if you want to keep 35 to fit in some other teams that might be on a little bit smaller scale, but who do have a tremendous fan base that might like to go there. So I don't see why that's so hard. I might have figured that out back as a senior in high school. So that's my rant on the bowl games. Is I think there's a very simple equation that would make it work. So anyway, let's go into my next topic is National Signing Day and the transfer portal. Right now it's chaos. I mean, let's just face it, folks. It's chaos. And again, it baffles me that this is so hard to figure out. So this kind of translates back into the academic schedule, the season schedule, your 2014 playoff. All this comes after you should have room after you change those things, change that academic schedule and change those things, and you can fit the signing day and the transfer portal. I don't know why they're not at the same time, to be honest with you, in the same window. And fit those into a short period of time prior to semesters starting, so the kids can, if they want to go out of high school, go to college early, get into the semester, get ready for spring practice, and those who want to transfer can do the same. Why do we have one at one time and one at the other? Why do we have one signing day during the season, one signing day in February? Why is the transfer portal in January? I don't know why you can't have those two things at the same window, same time window. It just doesn't make sense to me. So again, that's all incorporated into the number one thing that nobody really wants to talk about is academia, academic schedule. And I don't think that's should be a hard thing to change. That's probably the easiest thing to change than anything we're talking about on every channel that I watch. All right. Fall right into it again, coaching. Coaching jobs. Wow, another topic, create emotion, create turmoil, chaos, whatever. Coaches, I'm gonna tell you this. I was a coach and for youth sports, I did not leave my team until after the season was over. And I tell you why I didn't leave them. Because I asked my players to give everything they had to the success of themselves and the team. Not success to me, but to themselves and the team. So if I am asking my players to do that, then that's a requirement for me as a coach. No matter how tired I was, I didn't want to get up and go play 8 softball games in a row or go out of town on a weekend and play ever how many baseball games in a row. I was there for the players. My decision can be made after the end of the season. It never should be made during the season. So, athletic directors, other schools, you need to wait till everybody's season is over with, and you can put that same thing somewhere in a time window, either prior to signing or prior to the transfer portal. Figure that one out. That's for y'all to figure out. And again, it goes back to the academic scheduling. So now, if a coach gets fired, then I think there might be some sort of stipulation in there that could be looked at. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but there should be some stipulation in there where if a coach gets fired, then the athlete, student athlete, can make a choice at some point in there to do it prior to maybe the transfer portal. But again, I think that can easily be figured out. Easily figured out. So just a reminder to coaching. My belief, I was a youth coach. I was never going to leave my players during the season. I don't care what happened. The only way I was going to leave them is if something happened to me physically. I stay with my players because you know what? I asked them to do the same thing, and that's what should be done. So everybody get together on that coaching thing, figure that one out. I still believe you're smart people, so figure it out. All right. The last thing I'm going to talk about here is the NIL. I was involved in recruiting. Let me go back just a minute. Transfer portal. The other thing that's not really talked about as much too in the transfer portal is academics. When I tried to transfer, I had to have a certain grade point average. I had to have a certain amount of credits in order to qualify to get into whatever university I wanted to transfer to. I also had to sit out a year if I transferred. So those two things were really, really difficult to make a decision on, especially sitting out a year. So, but there's not enough talk about the academic side of it. Are these young men who are transferring qualifying properly to transfer? I don't know what the rules are now and won't even attempt to guess at it. I certainly don't want to do that. But those two things were really critical in as far as me looking into transferring. Did I want to sit out a year and did I have the credits or the grade point average? I had the grade point average, but sometimes I didn't have the right credits to go into or classes to go into another school, especially if you change conferences. So something needs to be looked at with that. Now let's go to the NIL. Like I said, I was a 4-year letterman, and I got a full ride to the University of Maryland to play golf. It's certainly not football. It was a non-revenue sport as well. So, but I did get a 4-year scholarship, and I was ecstatic. So it was my family. I can't tell you what that did for me personally and for my family. I can never repay University of Maryland enough and the coach enough for giving me that opportunity, basically for almost a free ride to go to a 4-year ACC top quality school. So that was my NIL, if you will. I didn't receive any other money. Not to say there might have been some other programs that did get some, but I didn't. But I was more than grateful and thankful for that. So, with saying that, I don't have any problem with student athletes, especially especially the revenue programs getting NIL money, and I don't discourage it with the non-revenue. I think everybody ought to have the ability to get NIL money or some sort of stipend or whatever you want to call it while they're in school, using their skills, their name, their image, and their likeness in the program that may enhance the university or whatever, enhance them and help them financially. I don't disagree with that. But I do think there's a disparaging with, money at certain schools, not certain, a lot of them versus others. And I think there's got to be something that has to happen as far as a line drawn of the amount of money, what that may be, 50,000, 100,000, 25,000, whatever it may be, to per player, per athlete, to try to bring some sort of regularity to, what people can pay out to that student athlete. Because I think with all the money involved, again, I go back to the money, and really all this, I know all these decisions are based on money, but I think if we can get away from that a little bit, I think we can make a rational decision. But I think there ought to be some sort of line drawn where only a certain amount of money can be paid to these student athletes, and for them to get paid. And I have no disagreement in letting them get paid. But I think there ought to be some sort of fairness line that should be drawn, because you take a university can pay somebody $4 million versus a university can pay $2,000. And $2,000 to me back in the day would have been a lot to me, and I'd have been happy with that. And I'd have been happy with $2 million as well. But when you have that disparaging amount, you're going to run into problems, and it's going to take away from college football. Anyway, I appreciate you listening. I know it's kind of a long rant for me. Normally I'm just on here giving a short and giving picks, but I wanted to come on here as a fan. I'm a firm believer in a 2014 playoff. The FCS has done it for years, and somehow they've been able to accomplish it. It's right in front of our face. I think the academic year is the key here of trying to figure out a reasonable academic year, and then a reasonable summer vacation for the students and the student athletes. And I think that's where it needs to start. I think everything else could formulate around that. And that's a topic that we need to have, and don't be afraid to have it, because I think it's the most simplest thing we can do is change the academic schedule. So thank you for listening. Thank you for coming to Stumpy's Corner. I appreciate any comments you may have. Hopefully keep them in a positive manner. And I wish you nothing but the best with the rest of the college football season. And I just love to have a discussion about it. So if anyone out there is watching this that would love for me to come on the show as a fan, as a former student athlete, 4-year letterman in college golf at University of Maryland, and a youth coach, I've been recruited. I wanted to transfer. So I have my thoughts on all this because it's realistic. It's what happened. It was a life experience. So all the best to everybody, and once again, God bless America.